trying to do? Yank off my beautiful leg to stoke your Hamatan fire? Scavenger, have you no heart? Have you no eye for beauty? No respect for the exquisite? Or rather, the ex-exquisite? I admit I'm a bit house-worn, and my paint has started to peel. But not very long ago, I was as beautiful as a damsel on the morning of her bloom. I was admired from every angle, paid for most handsomely, and taken to lend grace to a billionaire's finest home. But then, I fell on hard days and got carted from house to house, each less sumptuous than the last. At last, I found myself in rowdy bars, in greasy dining rooms, in flea bag hotels down by the street of derelicts. What have I seen in my career? Well, what have I not seen from my ass-up view of the world? I have carried in dignified silence the overflowing bottom of a cash madame whose arms and thighs were encased in armor plate of gold and lace. If airlines charged by body weight, so much for per kilogram mile as they do for excess baggage, one flight by that woman mountain would bankrupt 10 millionaires. If they did, if only they did, she wouldn't have spent her life up in the air commuting between airports, between here and everywhere, chasing rainbows among the clouds. And I have carried, without complaining, the bulk of a pregnant man who had 10 gallons of stale beer sloshing about in his hippo belly balloon, like oil in a listing tanker heaving about in a sea storm. He drank to drown his worries and stank so bad the bedbugs all ran away. I have carried with great irritation a deodorized lap dog who constantly anointed me with acid farts that corroded the catgut threads which held my innards together. Whatever it was that dog ate fizzed out as eye-stinging gas. I have suffered in terminal silence, merciless pounding from children's feet as they turned me into a trampoline and fatigued all my springs. Hey, what are you doing? Have you no heart at all? After hearing my hard luck story, why do you hammer me so hard? Why have you torn off my backside? Why have you flung my armrest away? Have I survived all I've survived just to be cannibalized in the end, to stoke some derelict's fire? Scavenger of the rubbish mountain, the judge of recycling sentenced me to hold some rubbish and earth in place in some landfill somewhere. I was not condemned to be hanged, drawn, quartered, and scattered in bits and pieces for some scavenger's pleasure. Why don't you just leave me alone to rot slowly in the sun and rain? Well, we've looked at the world from the position of a chair, looking at everything. Now we'll go to the other extreme. But let's take a look at the academic world from this point. The whispered news hit the groves of academe like a hurricane. A crazy research report had shown that Homer, Hitler, Shakespeare, Moses, Buddha, Socrates, Mena, Akhenaton, Imhotep, Caesar, Alexander, Napoleon, Jesus, Confucius, Sun Tzu, Satchmo, Beethoven, Tom Paine, Thomas Jefferson, Mark Twain, and many, many more. Indeed, the overwhelming majority of the most illustrious dead never had a PhD, and worse, never needed one. What a scandal! Shaking to the very soles of their feet, the grand wizards of academe held a secret conclave where they launched a massive cover-up of the affair. Their agents stole the one-page even wanted the questioner secretly burned for blasphemy, heresy, apostasy, and other anti-God activities. But wiser counsel eventually prevailed. Instead, a multidisciplinary, multinational, multiracial, intergender, interfaith, interclimatic research team was set up to determine God's IQ. It was empowered to spend as much money as necessary, even all the gold ever mined from the earth under Johannesburg, provided it came up with the results that would please the party of God. When the money was all spent, but not a moment before, the team threw up their hands in despair. They had failed to ascertain whether God could read, or write, or talk, or watch TV, or take multiple choice tests, much less whether he or she or it had enough brains to earn a BA, an MA, an MBA, let alone enough IQ to suffer through a PhD program. It was then that the oldest and wisest of the researchers suggested that since God was omniscient by definition and omnipotent by definition, they should declare again by definition that he had an infinite IQ. They had to be consistent, hadn't they? The exhausted researchers nodded in relief and voted to do as suggested. Having at last satisfied themselves that God has more than enough IQ to earn a PhD, the Lords of Academe held a convocation to surpass all convocations. It was a great assembly. professors in their serried ranks filled the huge auditorium. The emeritus professors in the front rows, the full professors behind them, the half professors behind them, then the quarter professors, the half-past professors, and the quarter to professors. And the novice lecturers were packed, cheek by jowl, in the topmost rows, farthest from the rostrum. The Pope rose and conferred a PhD on God and pronounced him fit to be the creator of the universe. The next one has to do with the next one has to do with a period in African life when traveling abroad was such a prestigious thing. And there was a class of people called Bintos. I guess people still do something like that now. Yeah. They talk of abroad as if it was some particular paradise. Anyway, back in the old days, the Bintos were quite a celebrated gang of people, and this is about them. At that gathering of African Bintos, when at last they had dropped the name of every place they had been to, each for the 37th time, they got bored with that and plunged into their other favorite game. One boasted that he was the first African to make a first in classical Macedonian. Another boasted that he was the first person of African descent to earn a DSc from Oxford in the special mini field of necropolitan bird warbles. Another boasted that he was the first African of height exactly 4 feet, 7 3/7 inches, and of weight 351 pounds to be admitted to the innermost temple. Another boasted that he was the first African ever to read Sanskrit diagonally while standing on his own head. Another boasted that he was the first African ever to flunk out altogether from the great University of Leeds kindergarten at exactly age 27. Another boasted that he was the first African from his mother's almost royal womb to win the Pumpernickel Scholarship to the Antarctica College of Fish Bait. As the competition grew more desperate, their boasts became works of pure inspiration. One boasted that he was the first African from his too-hot hamlet in the dense equatorial forests to see snow. Another that he was the first African ever to kiss both ears of a pregnant Lapland reindeer. Another that he was the first African ever to chew gum and hum a Madison Avenue jingle and carry his pith helmet in his armpit and snore while sleepwalking in safari shorts across Lenin Square in a Moscow blizzard. Another swore that he was the first African ever to look out of the easternmost salient of the fortress tower of the Assassini. Yet another boasted that he was the first African ever to be buggered by a turbaned Arab in the market at Baghdad right after the noonday prayer on a perfumed rug embroidered in Samarkand gold. And another boasted that he was the first African to fornicate with a white sperm whale. Not inside some aquarium, but out in the open seas. And he dared anyone to top that. That was when he spoke up. The inordinately arrogant one, who everyone assumed was an albino. he said, with pride dripping from his voice and quoting every syllable, that he was the first African ever to be reborn in the image of God. He had knelt down one night and prayed, "Oh Lord, I have tried everything to remake myself in your image, but my black face won't scrub clean. Tell me, Lord, what should I do?" And the Lord, he said, had said, "Have you tried scalding skim?" Whereupon, with great joy in his heart, he jumped into a boiling cauldron, and behold, came up white. It took a year, he said, to recover from his severe burns. 5 more of the most advanced plastic surgery to nurse his skin to its even texture. But God was with him and saw him through it all. And it certainly was worthwhile, he said. He looked like an angel now, he said, white and clean. Whenever he put on his turban, he said, or combed his hair and wore a suit and tie, he could pass for an Arab or European, even in broad daylight. Now we'll go into another area of human experience. Everybody was born and went through the trauma of coming out of a womb into the world. Now this is a piece on birth, the newborn's view. And they asked the great-great-grandmother, "When, ma'am, were you born?" And she answered them and said, "I don't know. I wasn't there. Or rather, I was there but wasn't aware. I certainly didn't look at any clock or calendar. But I'll tell you what I was told by those who claim to have been there. But knowing you, you wouldn't be interested in hearsay. If you insist on knowing for sure from eyewitnesses, you better ask those who witnessed the event, who were fully alert. But who now can give an eyewitness account of that moment? Who on earth can, seeing how old and gray and stooped with the weight of age I am myself?" And they put her under hypnosis and sped her memory back to her primal moment. "Yes, I remember it all now," she declared. "Oh yes, this was how it felt at the time. Unconsenting, unconsulted, without my asking at all, I was dragged through a tunnel of blood, tight and lightless. I popped out head first into a strange, unfocused air. Ghostly figures gathered around, baring their teeth. Unfamiliar noises issued from the holes in their faces and assaulted my ears. I felt a rush of air into my lungs. And like the flat, sticky walls of collapsed tire tubes, the walls of the air sacs in my lungs peeled apart. A scream escaped my lips, and between screams I asked, "Why all this pain? What have I done? Why am I here? Why all this blood?" But none of those standing around seemed to understand me. They kept up smiling and grinning and smiling and grinning, looking happy at my pain. I felt lonely and afraid, and I cried out again and again and again to no avail, till my first sleep rescued me from my dismay. That's the newborn's view of the passage.
We now have the 4, and I hope most of you have taken some notes and may like to discuss 1 or 2 aspects of it. So from you are welcome.
Hello. Yes, this reading has been brilliant, and I'm very grateful to be here today to listen to you read. And my question is a question of anticipation. When are we going to get this book to hold and to read in our hands?
That is your question.
That's my question.
I think I want to help him answer that.
Okay, sure.
I think what will be most important for now is how we took the works.
Okay.
Did we understand it?
Okay. All right. So
the point at which he's getting at, so that if it should come out, we can know what can be added or deducted.
No problem.
So you are welcome. He will tell you that later.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Is it okay now? Fine, thank you. So the point is, we want to hear from you.
Then I'll answer his question if nobody else has a question. If nobody else has a question or comment,
no, I did have a question concerning the particular the poem directed at academia.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's satire.
Yeah.
But there's always some truth to satire.
Yeah.
And in the poem, you could tell there was some form of disdain towards I wouldn't say disdain per se, but just like once you're directing satire at a particular group of people, there's a little bit of I don't know exactly how to put it, but this let me use disdain, even though you know that's not what I mean. So I wanted, since you confessed on stage right now that you formerly were an academic and then you left about 40 years ago, I want to understand where that's from and if that's tied to the reason why you left.
No, it wasn't tied to the reason why I left. I left because I was bored.
Okay.
Well, the point of the whole idea of these satires is simply to take an unconventional look at things.
Good.
The critical and unconventional view and irreverent. Well, academics, as far as I know, tend to take themselves too seriously. So, I see. They tend to take themselves too seriously. And so I think it's important that we don't join them in that attitude. We recognize that you're as good as your work, not as your title. And if we can stop being so reverential towards them, they won't put a whole lot of rubbish into our heads. Like, for instance, all this talk of PhDs and their value. You can get a PhD for all kinds of rubbish. Somebody reported about somebody doing a PhD on the semicolons in Milton's sonnets. Now, he comes out with his PhD and you think you have to respect everything he says. Now, suddenly, when you think about it, realize all he knows about is semicolons in Newton's, in Milton's sonnets. That's all he had been trained to know. So when he starts talking about anything else, you can conveniently disregard him because it's not his area. Only for those who are interested in semicolons in Milton's sonnets can he be taken. Can take him seriously. So that somebody has a PhD doesn't mean is an authority on anything except in the little area. And the other joke about all that is that they talk of these experts, they're specialists, they know a lot about a little, and get on to know even more about less until they know everything about nothing. So we should keep things in perspective. Or like we used to joke in my undergraduate days, you get a BS, the students will say, that's bullshit. MS, more shit. PhD, piled high and deep.
So from that, you can see how he got bored. Yes. I'm thinking that somebody would have thought of asking about how we came into the world. Oh, you are coming with it?
Yes.
Yeah, come, please. Let me hold it. Yeah.
All right, thank you, Ben Ashley. And my question has to do with the poem you read about the Bintus. Would you say that that particular piece seeks to interrogate the idea that Africans put so much value on things that will be considered as useless under normal circumstances? Things that under normal circumstances would consider as useless. Would you say that it seeks to, in the broader sense, interrogate that particular notion or idea?
Now, you're talking about the birth?
No, the one on
Bintus.
Yes.
Yes.
No, that's just a joke and positive. People think that just because they went somewhere that most people don't go to and come back, there's something special about them. That people should bow and respect them because they've been to London, or like they used to boast, he came back with a B.A. Dunelm or B.A. Oxford or whatever. Therefore, he's an authority that has to be respected. Whereas his grandfather, who knows all about how to plant yam and harvest it in time, has no recognition. He's a primitive. Just because he spent 3 or 4 years looking into books in some funny place, and somebody gave him a parchment at the end of it, he's now more knowledgeable, wiser than his grandfather, who knows everything about the weather and where to plant what and when to harvest it. So it's a matter of, again, of our perspective on things, to recognize that these external conferments do not reflect things that are valuable to us or that should be valuable to us. Our culture, our life experience, all these things matter and tell us more of what we should know and honor and respect than the mere fact that your son, your child, went away for 3 years and came back. And now you have to put him in a category almost like a semi-god. Any other question?
Are we having some? Any other question? Yeah, okay. So I think we shall take the next 4 and then see how far we shall understand that or interrogate that. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to read the next 4. They're all lyrics from a play I wrote back in the 70s during the Vietnam War. It was an anti-war play in which all kinds of people were satirized. The warmongers, the peacemongers, the politicians, the priests, all kinds of characters were brought in there, and their motivation, whether they were for war or against war, were put under the microscope. So the first one is about somebody who said, Song of the Intellectual Whore. I am a mercenary, an intellectual whore. I sell to anyone who pays the service of my mind. My researches have proved that strippers have big busts, that gangsters love their mothers, that monkeys eat bananas. I am a mercenary, an intellectual whore. I sell to the highest bidder the service of my mind, but the polite ones call me a consultant. Now the other one, the next one is about these scientists who get involved in military research of one kind or another. It's called Dr. Wizard. There was once a scientist, a friend whose name was Wizard. A more brilliant child of truth the world has yet to nurture. His craze for truth led him to find the secret of the atom. He told the politicians he built a bomb for them, but turned around on moral grounds to stop them using it. He was firmly brushed aside. Cities were swallowed up by mushroom clouds. He then abandoned physics and turned to biology to seek those truths of nature which wouldn't harm a virus. His craze for truth led him to crack the deep genetic code. The soldiers grinned in glee. He tried to scream in protest. They chained him down and whipped him to build the recombinant bomb. He was left to rot in jail. Continents were swallowed up by virus clouds. Now this one is called Equal Time, 2 lyrics in praise of war, based on Psalm 23. First part is the Cardinal's Prayer. War is my shepherd, I shall not want. It maketh me to lie down in duller pastures. It leadeth me beside Riviera waters. It restoreth my patriotism. It leadeth me in the paths of intervention for profit's sake. Yea, though I walk through the riots and disruptions of peace snakes, I will fear no loss, for thou art with me. Thy bombs and thy guns, they comfort me. Thou preparest a fortune before me in the presence of my competitors. Thou anointest my train with gravy. My trust funds double daily. Surely, power and respectability shall cloak me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of propriety forever. That's the cardinal. Now, at the other extreme is the chaplain, who works with ordinary people or ordinary institutions. And his prayer is, war is my stimulant. I shall not drowse. It maketh me to wax hot on peace platforms. It leadeth me to denounce the warring factions. It restoreth my pacifism. It leadeth me in the paths of self-righteousness for humanity's sake. Yea, though I march through the hatred and the hecklings of warnicks, I will fear no lynching, for thou art with me. Thy togetherness and thy orgies, they comfort me. Thou preparest a jail cell before me in the presence of my principals. Thou anointest my phone with wiretaps. My dossier runneth over. Surely, martyrdom and the FBI shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the halo of subversion forever. Now this is about, also from the same play, the unexpected consequences of a generation of peace. Now, the chairman of the board of the armaments industry, his wife is a liberal, and when the husband is promoting and pushing for more arms to be sold, she tries to argue against it, or at least to make him change his basis of his argument. And this was the period of the late 60s, when the hippies in America had come into their own. And most respectable people didn't like the hippies because of their looks. They couldn't distinguish the genders, the male from the female, because they were always wearing all kinds of things. It was a unisex uniform that they had. Their hair, the men wore their hair long instead of cutting them short. So most respectable people couldn't tell the difference between a boy and a girl. Anyway, the chairman's wife has a song of the winter night. One lone winter night, my husband was out. I rushed out to pick up a young blood to tone up my old blood. They all wore long hair, bell-bottom tight pants, necklaces, bright beads, and old furs that hid all their outlines. I came home ice cold, by high-strung lust racked. I dragged out my toolkit and snatched up a dildo and did it. I woke up and found a dynamite stick protruding and nodding and wet in the passage inside me. Oh my God, a dynamite dick. They would have discovered my tattered vagina in communist China, in capitalist Dallas, my charred ass. I don't like these hippies. Their men aren't like men. Their girls aren't like girls. They all look so neutrally sexless. Four. The second set of four.
That's 4.
Finish those second.
So we can now. Yeah. From the clapping, I can see that you enjoyed the last one. And is it because of the words that you heard, or the fact that we got the poem, or we got the writing? Either way, it's over to you. Please. Questions, observations? Louder. I know.
Yes, hello.
Yeah.
So the poem, the particular poem I want to talk about or ask a question about has to do with the one, I couldn't hear the title, but it was about the cardinal and the chaplain. Right.
The one with our shepherd?
Yes, the Psalm 23.
Yes, Psalm 23.
So I'm saying that listening to the poem, you realize that the situation that you're describing in the lyrics are still true today. And so my first question is, how does that make you feel? And the second question is, was that part of your decision to add it to the compilation?
Yeah.
Well, priests are one of the oldest professions. So it's not surprising that their attitudes are still relevant today. And the difference between the big priests and the pastors who go to the parishes to talk is still the same. So, well, the whole point is that if it hit on certain things back in the early 70s, those things haven't vanished. which is why you can still read your Juvenal or your Marshall or your Jonathan Swift and still relate it to something that's happened, the absurdities of life today. I hope
Yes, basically.
And I think you noted the one with hippies. The hippies.
Yes.
It looks like we have the opposite of hippies now.
Yes, I think so too.
Yeah,
But
you realize that?
I feel like the one thing that the hippies stood for, that was the anti-war protests and stuff like that, have still, they're still here today. The sentiment still exists today.
Good.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. So thank you, and you are welcome. Why are we allowing him alone to...
Ask what the questions.
Do you want us to take some more?
Okay.
Are you with me? Yes. Do you want us to have some more?
Yes.
Okay. Then we are going to have another set of...
Okay, just hold on. I forgot to record my stuff all this time.
Oh, okay.
Help me.
Have you recorded? Have you recorded? Yeah.
Okay, all right. What time do we have? Just 2 points.
Yes, but I don't know whether 4.
But what time is it?
We have 10 minutes. That's better. We have 10 minutes. So I think 1 and even.
Okay, I read 2 of them. Well, this is about the audit man. We hear about auditors and their job, and we hear a lot of about corruption. And in Nigeria, there's always been this phenomenon that major office buildings get burnt down when there's talk of probing that ministry or that department. And this is a satire on that. It's called Burn and Go, the Audit Man. No bodyguards flank his table. No sentries intimidate the anterooms of his office. Not even a coat of arms hangs on the wall above his head. There he sits, the audit man, calm and unassuming. Yet his power is great in the land. When they hear he is coming their way, great buildings burst into spontaneous combustion. Make way, make way, make way. Give respect where respect is overdue. Make way for the audit man. Good day to you, sir, Mr. Audit Man, starter of mysterious fires. We stand in deep humility before your quiet power. You walk about town looking more harmless than a worm. You travel incognito, without outriders, without sirens blaring a warpath through acres of jammed traffic. Note Koboko boys whip pedestrians into the gutters to clear a path for your convoy. Yet, at the rumor of your coming their way, sensitive files in the greatest offices begin to smolder. And when your shadow crosses the front gate, top secret cabinets burst into flames. Who would have guessed that a man so cool and so calm could incite spontaneous combustion? not in grass huts in the dry savannah after a 7-year drought, not in kitchens or petrol depots, but in our grandest towers of air-conditioned steel and concrete. The Republic Building, the Ministry of Education Building, the Nigerian External Telecommunications Building, and now the NNPC, Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. And what shall be next? The Independence Building, the Central Bank, the National Mint. You may not be a kill and go, Mr. Audit Man, but your shadow is a burn and go. It burns up the sins of the world better than the blood of Jesus can wash them away. Take a clerk on 2,000 naira a year who has 17 Mercedes cars, 25 houses, and 7 mansions. The purifying fire from your shadow can make him cleaner than the Holy Ghost. We must give gratitude to the gods that the audit man does not pay frequent visits to households and offices. If he began dropping in at homes and offices every day for beer or for lunch or just to say hello, he would set the whole land ablaze. Cities would burn, villages would burn, all buildings in the land would soon be roofless and blackened with soot, as embezzlers of every stripe, from housewives to high officials, hurry to bury their misdeeds under smoldering ash. Even the forests and grasslands would burn to destroy the evidence which hunters and farmers hide in tree trunks and rabbit holes. Now, Sir, Doctor, Cardinal, Generalissimo, Emperor Audit Man, we bow and tremble at your feet. Your power is greater than the great, for even the greatest tremble at your coming. Tell us, sir, which is your patron god? To whom should we pray and offer sacrifices to keep our buildings safe? Is it Shango? Shango who tosses lightning across the skies, and from afar, trees and houses and people burst into flames. Can you imagine it? Shango, Lord of the Thunderbolt, as patron god of auditors. Now, these buildings haven't stopped burning. Earlier this year in April, one of the buildings in Abuja, they call it Treasury House. I think it belongs to either the Ministry of Finance or something like that, burst into flames. Because somebody in the Senate was talking of investigating what was going on there.
Because the audit man was coming.
That's right. The last that I will read is about, I call it genderitis. And it's about all this talk of all the genders that they are supposed to be. Just hold on, let me, where the hell is it? The matter of transgenders and gender proliferation. The hotel room janitor stops a fretful seeker of relief. The janitor asks, "Sir, may I help you? You seem to be having a problem. Can't decide which restroom to step into. Are you a he, a she, or an it? None of the above. What then are you? I'm transgender. What's that? I'm 8 parts he, 9 parts she, and 5 parts it." The janitor, really? The guest, there are 22 possible genders. I don't see any door for my gender. The janitor, 22 genders? Really, don't confuse me. Cock or cunt? Which do you have? The guest says cock. The janitor, that makes you a he. The guest. But I don't feel like a he.
Yeah.
The janitor. Look, gender isn't a matter of how you feel. It's a matter of equipment, of your kind of tool. If you got a cock, you are a he. If you got a cunt, you are a she. If you got both, you are an it. And if you got neither, like a eunuch, you're also an it. The guest. We are discriminating against transgender persons. The janitor. Am I now? Guest. And you are intolerant. And the janitor. And you are a sack of confusions. And the hotel manager butts in. What's going on here? The janitor. This gender cocktail can't decide what gender he is. A he, or a she, or an it. And turns to the guest. How many genders did you say there are? And the guest, 22. And the manager, you mean this hotel lobby, every hotel lobby, in fact, every public facility must have 22 separate restrooms, one for each gender? And the guest, that's right. And if you don't, that's discrimination against transgenders. The manager, you may have to wait till we rebuild this hotel lobby and put in 22 restrooms. I hope that's okay for you. But in the meantime, let's see how we can help you. If you show you are 12 parts male, we'll say you are a he, approximately, and he'll give you a key to the gents. If you show you are 12 parts female, we'll say you are a she, approximately, and he'll give you the key to the ladies. The guest, I'm pressed. Stop this gender tyranny. Let's have one of the keys. Manager, it's for you to decide first. How quickly you get a key is up to you. And if you piss or do whatever on this floor, you will have to clean it up. The guest, please give me a key. The manager, what gender are you? Male or female?
So, thank you very much. And it's over to you. Let's hear what you have to tell us.
So, what I have is sadly to bring the discussion to an end, as it's run for its 1 hour. And even though I was in there, I heard that some of the poetry that had gone through was really very interesting. And so I'm just going to ask that Chinweizu will prepare this text as quickly as possible for publication, and we will be happy to grab a hold of it.